Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We've got football training camp starting off all across the upstate and both of the Carolinas, including the Carolina Panthers. I've been hanging out in Charlotte the past couple days, getting to go out to practice, talk to coach, players, etc. And there's been a little bit of activity, we'll say the least, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But we got to hear from Coach for the first time on Sunday following their Hall of Fame game where they won 33-30 in a last-second drive where Haynes King just reached over the line and scored on the last possible drive. It was beautiful. It was exciting. And then we had to practice on Sunday and we find out that Haynes King has a hamstring injury and he's out. He's gone. And so they bring in a new quarterback. Things are getting better. And they have a new plan. They say he's going to be week to week, and we heard from Coach on that matter, and we also heard some new news that we might be not seeing that new quarterback. We're going to be seeing Bryce Young when they play the Buffalo Bills this upcoming Saturday at 1 o'clock. So some excitement for the starters to get back on the field in front of a crowd in a stadium for the first time in a long time.
We had a little bit of a scuffle out there, and the response afterwards was more physical.
I'm excited to just be able to go out there with the guys. Anytime you get to play football live in a stadium, it's a privilege. Especially being able to go out there last week, you're around it. Obviously wasn't playing, but just you get that itch again.
It hurt me on whenever the Hall of Fame game was. I couldn't be out there, but yeah, coming up again in Buffalo, I believe they just built like a new stadium or something, so that's gonna be cool. Playing that's gonna be fun, so I'm really excited to get back on the field like that.
I gotta say, I can't tell if I'm a little surprised that they are putting the starters out there in just the second preseason game. Head coach Dave Canales said it's only going to be about 15-20 plays, kind of what Kenny Pickett did against the Cardinals last weekend. But Rick, what do you think about the starters going out there? Do you think that's a good call?
Well, I think it's time. Remember, they got to start a week early because with training camp because they're playing in the Hall of Fame game, and so now you look at it. Okay, they didn't play in the Hall of Fame game. We see them getting testy at practice because they're banging on each other all the time. So yeah, put them out there. They're only going to play a quarter, maybe a little bit over a quarter. Then you go with your backups. And we're not going to see much more of them during the preseason. Maybe they'll get one more shot, and then the rest of the time it's going to be your second stringers, your backups, people who are hoping just to make the final cut and make the roster. So it's time. Put them out there. And also, fans want to see the starters. You get tired of just seeing the backups all the time in the preseason. So I'm good with it, Ella.
Yeah, I like it. I'm excited to see them out there. And you kind of mentioned it. They've been getting into some tizzies, as we were calling them earlier, with each other, just going against each other all the time. We didn't see it with our own eyes from anyone here on the Palmetto Sports team, but there was apparently quite the tizzy at practice yesterday that had Bryce Young in the mix of it. I think he was kind of jawing a little bit with Mike Jackson. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but head coach Dave Canales did address it. Here's what he had to say.
We had a little bit of a scuffle out there, and the response afterwards was more physicality, and that's exactly where we should be. We got to play on that tiptoe that line where we're in pads. We got to play football. That's the bottom line. But there's some situations where we can be smarter and take care of each other. So I think that's what the frustration ultimately was about. I'm all for it. And, I talked to the defensive guys, like, don't back off on that. Let's just see where our wideouts, receivers, et cetera, where they're at in those situations. If they can't see you, thud them up and hold them up. If they can see you, I want it to be like football, other than just we're not going to the legs and all that. So some teachable moments on both sides, really.
Well, I think we talked about this pretty recently because this is not the first time that we've seen a scuffle at Panthers practice this offseason. It's happened quite a few times in just the few amount of times that I've been out there. But Rick, I think it's a little different when your quarterback gets involved, especially your starting quarterback. What do you think about this? Do you like him getting in there, or do you think he should be more so refereeing these little scuffles that are going on?
Hey, I don't think Bryce was getting in there ready to throw hands. I think maybe he was trying to be peacemaker, but also maybe give the defense a piece of his mind and say, hey, we have to protect each other. You heard Coach Canales say in that soundbite, hey, if they can see you, then hey, go ahead, let's play some football. If they can't see you, just hold them up. You don't want to hit someone and risk one of your key players getting injured. So I think that's what the scuffle and the confusion was all about. The offensive players saying, hey, that's being too aggressive. We can't do that. On the other hand, Coach Canales says it's football, and the way you get ready to play football, it's got to be a collision sport. You know, football is not a contact sport. It's a collision sport. So if you're all soft during training camp, you're not letting the guys hit, you're not going to be ready when the regular season kicks off. So you need that physicality, you need that aggression, but you've got to be smart. Let's not hurt each other. And I read where after that practice, the guys got together, they talked about it, say, hey, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. So, you know, it's just part of training camp. You know, they get tired of beating up on each other. So now they get to go beat up on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Rick. I remember the last time we saw a scuffle about a week ago, we were able to talk to Jonathan Brooks about it, who was kind of in the center of things, and he said, you know what, we love each other off the field, but we hate each other sometimes on the field, and then the second we get back off of it, we love each other again. That's how we get better, is by pushing each other on the field. So I think it's great. I think it's great that these guys are getting vocal, they're getting competitive, and getting their juices flowing, especially heading to Buffalo this weekend. Well, we're going to take a break here on Palmetto Sports Daily, and we'll be right back after this break.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily, and I'd like to welcome Kevin to the show. He's got his technical problems worked out down there in Charleston. How you doing, Kevin?
I've been working behind the scenes left and right just to jump in now in the second block. Very excited.
All right, well, glad to have you aboard with myself and Ella. Right now, we're going to talk some Gamecock football. Gamecocks working, getting ready for their September 5th opener against Kent. And all this offseason, a lot of talk about LaNorris Sellers, like what happened to LaNorris last season. He goes into the season being mentioned as a strong Heisman Trophy candidate, but the team goes 4-8. LaNorris doesn't have quite the season he had in 2024, so he's hoping to regain that form. Now, last season, LaNorris completed just under 61% of his passes for just over 2,400 yards and 13 touchdowns. In 2024, he completed close to 66% of his attempts for over 2,500 yards and 18 touchdowns, and his interceptions increased by 1 last year, from 7 to 8. Of course, Sellers received a lot of criticism for the struggles of that offense. Head coach Shane Beamer is confident that Sellers will get back on track this fall.
When you have the season that we had, the blame falls on the head coach, and rightfully so, and then, you know, not just in South Carolina, but anywhere, the quarterback. And he doesn't believe he's a 4-8 quarterback, and I don't believe that he's a 4-8 quarterback, you know. So he took ownership and accountability for the season, and absolutely, we've got to be better around LaNorris. There's no doubt about it, but LaNorris will be the first to tell you. And we had a good meeting way back in whenever that was, January, you know, myself and LaNorris, and Kendall was here, and LaNorris' family, and just kind of talking about what 2026 is going to look like and what we need from each other, how we can be better for him, and where he needs to be better too. And he accepted all that and has really worked hard to be a better player.
Now, when we're out there covering practice, so to speak, we are only out there for about 15 minutes, so we don't really see like any 11 on 11 stuff. Just some drills and maybe LaNorris throwing to some receivers. But one thing I've noticed, and you may have noticed it in the video too, he looks to be in tremendous shape. Looks like he maybe dropped a few pounds. And there he is working on that ball security. And also Coach Beamer talks about guys during the offseason, like, hey, are these the guys showing up for every workout? Are they on time? And all of that helps with his leadership skills. And they're looking for LaNorris to be a little more vocal because he is a team leader. People look at him for some guidance and some direction when they're out there on the field. So I'm hoping he can bounce back to that 2024 form, and so does everyone in Gamecock Nation.
Yeah, I think it's definitely really hard from an outside perspective, and probably for the program as well. When you head into last season, this guy has the nickname of Heisman Sellers. He's a Heisman candidate. He certainly still played the same way he did the year before, but the people around him didn't make him seem like a Heisman candidate. A lot of things went wrong for this team. So mentally, getting over that hump has to be the hardest part for him, I have to imagine. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, for me, Sellers isn't the worry going into this season on the Gamecocks offense. It's the guys in front of him, because I think Sellers wasn't that much of a different quarterback last year than he was the year before that. The problem was the guys protecting him weren't as good from a week-to-week basis. So, the difference this year is going to come if he gets the time. If he gets back and has more than 3 or 4 seconds to throw each time he drops back, then he's going to be fine. If he gets some holes open that he can use his legs a little bit more this season, then he's going to be, one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. If it gets to a point where it was last year where, he's only got a couple of seconds to make a decision once he snaps the ball, then, Rick, we're going to have the same problems we did last year.
Yeah, not only the offensive line, but now you have a new offensive coordinator, and I think last year some of the play calling, and I think LaNorris, he was thinking too much, and you listen to the offensive guys now under Kendall Browse, they talk about how they're able to play fast, it's simpler, and Browse has talked about letting LaNorris be LaNorris. If a play breaks down, use your feet, use your legs to make something happen. So I think all of that will play a role, too, in LaNorris being the quarterback that we thought he was going to be last year.
And as we switch over to the high school level, we're just a few days away from some of the high school league teams, or some of the teams, I should say, getting their season kicked off. Maybe the top quarterback in the state made his college decision yesterday, and that's over to Oceanside Collegiate, where rising seeder Adam Manavian announced that he's going to be going to Davidson next year. That's his particular choice going forward for next season. And Manavian has put up incredible numbers in his 3 seasons as a starter. He started getting the call for Oceanside as the QB1 midway through his freshman year, really more towards the end of his freshman year when he started the state championship game in Orangeburg, and it's just kind of gone from there. They would win a state championship as a freshman. They moved up to 3A after that. They won state championships as a sophomore and junior as well, so now going into his senior year, looking for his 4th state championship. Last year, he threw for over 4,000 yards, 41 touchdowns, added a few more on the ground as well. So definitely considered, if not the top quarterback in the state, definitely one of them in the class of 2027, and also one of the top 10 players in the state as well. So Manavian getting ready to go to Davidson. A little surprised he didn't get some higher offers, but he's playing at that 3A level, so maybe it's just a situation where coaches want to see him go up against some tougher competition. But remember, this is the same team, Rick, that beat Dutch Fork last year, so they have gone up against the best team in the state the last couple of years, and they've come out on top.
Yeah, he caught my attention last year when they beat Dutch Fork. And I was wondering, did he get any other offers from some larger schools? In that clip that we just saw, I think he was only in there for one highlight, threw a pass. How big is he, and what about his arm strength? Because that one pass I saw him throw, it's kind of wobbled.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good-sized kid. He's about 6'3". He needs to fill out a little bit more. I would like to see that. But arm strength has never been his problem. And, he's always had, in his 3 years as a starter, at least 2 receivers that he's been able to just kind of chuck down and get it to him. And this year's going to be no different. He's got Jaden Kelly Murray, the kid who transferred over from Somerville. He's a Colorado commit. Also has Anthony Williams, who's going to be a rising senior as well. He's a North Carolina commit. So he's got the receivers, and maybe that goes against him a little bit as well. They see so much talent around him. They're not sure what he can do without them.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what kind of a season he has this year. and wish him well moving on to Davidson. But yeah, he did catch my attention when they beat Dutch Fork last year. All right, good segment there. And we're going to take another time out, and we'll be right back with more here on Palmetto Sports Daily.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. We're talking some college basketball, now the time of year when teams start getting their schedules out a little bit. And we saw an interesting game come out yesterday afternoon. That is South Florida coming to play the College of Charleston this season. The reason that's interesting is South Florida's new head coach is the former College of Charleston coach, Chris Mack. So he's going to be bringing his new team to take on his former team in his first season since leaving CFC. And he's going to become the first full-time head coach in College of Charleston history to bring his new team back to CFC to play against the Cougars. So a little bit of history in this one. Really interesting. Of course, Max spent 2 seasons at CFC before leaving this offseason to go become the head coach over at South Florida. Kind of the interesting timing, though, and I know a lot of CFC fans aren't too happy about the way this has worked out. That game going to be played on December 22nd of this year, so well into the winter break for colleges. So most of the students going to be not on campus for when that game comes. I know a lot of kids and a lot of fans were excited about, getting their 2 cents in with Chris Mack when he walks onto the floor, but a lot of them are going to be back at home when that game takes place. But still, I give Mack some credit for scheduling this game and being big enough to come back to his former school and take on, it's not going to be a lot of kids he knows, but still some kids he knows from the team he coached here. So good on him for coming back to CFC this year, Rick.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of greeting he'll receive from the fans. I'm sure there'll be some hazing and also some love thrown his way as well. Now let's talk Gamecock men's basketball. They've had some pretty rough seasons the last couple of years, but they have something to celebrate. They took a trip to the Bahamas, a working vacation, so to speak. They played 2 exhibitions, won them both. Now, this is a practice video from last week as they prepared for that trip. The Gamecocks won their first exhibition Saturday, 94-81 over Victoria, a Canadian team. And then yesterday, Carolina routed the Bahamas national team 86-46, and senior transfer guard Corey Mincy was the leading scorer in both games. He had 18 on Saturday and 15 yesterday. Now, in addition to the wins, Coach Lamont Paris is pleased that in each game, all but one player scored. Saturday, 10 of 11 guys played double-figure minutes, and yesterday it was 10 of 12. Here's Lamont on that trip to the Bahamas.
We live in a world now where everyone wants to shine, and rightfully so. But in a team sport like this, you can't have 15 guys that shine all the time, but you can shine in your role, and you have to make some sacrifices here and there. And so I thought we did a really good job with that. So I think we got some guys that can be ready when called upon.
I think that's a good sign for Lamont that players were sharing the basketball, because these past couple of years, you see a lot of guys playing that hero ball. It's like me for me and just for me. And the fact that they're willing to share the basketball and everyone being able to put some numbers up. Now, if that carries over to the regular season, he may have something he can work with. Ella?
Yeah, when you have a 4-14 conference record, it's good to get those confidence boosts heading into the next season. Clemson also had a little world traveling this summer. They went 3-0 in Italy, also known as Griddly, that they called it. They had every single guy score as well. Just good to see those guys getting out on the court, getting their confidence back up, and of course, having some fun before the season begins. But we're going to take a quick break here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be right back.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. Had to talk about this story before we go. There was a high school football player in Arkansas earlier this week taking part in practice, had said something felt weird in his helmet, so after an hour of practice, took the helmet off, gave it to someone to look at, and when they looked inside, they found a cottonmouth snake, and here's a picture of it right here, real quick. Literally a venomous snake was tucked up inside the padding of this guy's helmet. Miraculously, like I said, he practiced in this thing for an hour, and the snake just sat there the entire hour and didn't do anything to him. Thank everything. And eventually they took it off. They put the helmet into a bucket of water, got the snake out of there, and everything was fine. Everything worked out for everyone. The question is, I'm going to ask you first, Ella, do you ever put this helmet on again?
No chance. I'm from Florida. I'm quite familiar with cottonmouths. You couldn't pay me enough to put the helmet back on. I want to know how it got in there. It's not like there's a lot of room in these helmets, and cottonmouths are ginormous. I have so many questions that I would really like to follow. What is that? Oh my word. Oh my God. Oh, it's a very small cottonmouth.
Maybe a baby?
Okay. Wow. Thank goodness for that kid's sake. I mean, that could have been seriously bad. I can't imagine a worse place to be bitten by a snake. Rick, what are your thoughts on this ridiculousness?
Wait, I'm waiting to hear Rick tell a story about how they always used to practice with snakes in their helmets.
Yeah, hey, that's my first thought. How could he practice for an hour or more with a snake up in there? Because those helmets are pretty tight. And so you notice something going on, doesn't feel right, I'll take my helmet off and check it off. As far as would I wear that helmet again? Of course, because when you go to a small school like mine, you don't have a lot of extra helmets or anything. So, yeah, I'm wearing that helmet again. All right, that's going to wrap it up here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great evening.